welcome to Get Above the Clouds, episode 5. It has been a very stressful couple of days, hasn't it?
Yeah, we lost the Bixler 3.
We lost the Bixler. Don't put too fine a point on it. We lost the Bixler. So, I mean, the footage you're seeing now was from a couple of days ago. One of the last flights before we lost it. So, at the moment, Seth's testing the FPV on that video, and I'm flying it about, and all is good with the world. Until the following day, when we decided we'd go out, put the FPV on, and get as high up as we could.
Yeah.
So it didn't quite turn out like that, did it?
No, because you threw it, and then...
Well, basically, my ground crew strolled off, didn't they?
Yeah, so I went over to get them. We saw the plane go into the distance, and then we saw you as we came back, and you said you'd lost the plane. Basically,
when I was flying it, I flew out a fair distance, and then I suddenly realised I didn't know where I was. The more I looked around, the worse it got. I clicked return to home, and it didn't know where it was going. It flew further away and started circling somewhere. I could see sheep and cows. I had no idea where it was. And then I clicked return to home again, and I couldn't hear the plane. And basically, it just ditched sideways, and the video cut out, and that was it. Now, you can see this map here. That's where we are, where we normally fly.
Yeah.
And when I binned it, when I lost contact with it, I walked down there to find you guys, and then we all walked down there to where you reckoned it was last seen or heard. We saw dog walkers that told us to go up to that gate to get across, and we couldn't get across. And then our epic voyage of walking began.
All around the field, we walked miles.
We did. So first thing I did was I had no reception on the goggles.
No.
So I thought if I can find somewhere where I can see through the goggles, because it doesn't go through stuff very well, so if it's behind trees, you're not going to see anything. So I thought if I go around these trees, and I had no idea what even direction I was in. So I walked all around the edge of that field. Then I decided that I'd walk all the way down, and at this point I left all you guys with the car, but with no keys. I had the keys.
Yeah.
And the phone. I had no phone.
Yeah.
And I went strolling off up here, because basically I'm in a race against the batteries in the goggles running out.
Yeah.
So that's beeping at me. So I walk all the way down here, you can see it on the map. Walk all the way down there, and at that point there, I started to see something through the goggles. And I walked around all down there, and at that point I walked into a field that was full of sheep. I was face to face with sheep. So then I walked back down here, and then I lost visual. And I started thinking that if I kind of duck down and lose signal and then raise up, and then every time I got signal back I tried to look through where it might be. And all round here I was trying to get a hazy signal, but I couldn't get through. It's all just like fences, and round the sheep fences it's all electrical. So I walked all the way back to where I got a picture before, and I was looking around, and I could see through the goggles that it was in one of the cut fields. So it was like straw with a bit of grass on it, but the batteries are beeping at this point, and I'm having to turn the goggles off and then turn them back on for a quick look, and I just can't get through into the other fields. So eventually I worked out that if I went back up this way, I was starting to get reception again when I walked over sort of around this area. Walked that way, didn't get any, so I walked back this way and I started getting reception back. But these fields are huge. Like, we're talking like a kilometre each way, these fields, and I couldn't get through that barrier. So in the end I jumped over a fence and slid down a bank, because I thought it would be in this field here, and I walked down here, and it was at this point that I finally saw it. And I've never been so relieved. It was probably an hour and a half searching by this point.
Yeah, me, Flynn and Mummy, we were at the car, and we were worrying about where you were, what you were doing and stuff. And then also we thought if we left my red scarf, which I was wearing at the start of the video of the goggles, on the car, you would think that we'd gone home. But then I noticed if we went home, we wouldn't have the keys to get into the house, and the windows are shut.
Yeah, they were me and got no phone.
Yeah, and then we couldn't drive home either. Then we'd have to do about 40-minute walk home, which wouldn't do good either.
So at this point, you can see I've gone all the way around the outside of that field. That's because I know I can't get back out the way I came in because I jumped down a bank and I can't get back up there, particularly not with a plane. So I walked out to that field, walked all the way down, tried to find a way through. That whole field is completely blocked in. So I ended up going all the way around again, trying to find a way back. I was keeping an eye on some blackberries in case I had to sort of camp out there for a while. But then I finally found my way back down to the farm. And it was about... So I'm coming back down here. It was about this point, which is 2 odd hours later, I see Seth. Seth comes running down to me. And yeah, we're all back together again. We've got the plane and we get back to the car.
Yeah.
But I did not think we were getting that plane back.
Me neither. And plus, if we lost that plane, it would be the GoPro, the FPV, all the batteries we had, all just gone, and that's technically our whole channel's gone.
Okay, so this is the video that we got back from the GoPro on the Bixler. Now, I'm on my own at this point, so I've got the goggles on my forehead and I've thrown the plane.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to get it high up enough that I can put it on autopilot and put my goggles on. So, because, I mean, I shouldn't have been impatient and launched it until you guys were back. But you were miles away and, you know, the battery was running down. I had it all set up to go, got impatient and threw it, which was silly. But yeah, so I'm flying around here. And you guys can see it at this point.
Yeah, we saw it about then. And then we turned around, started coming to you. We were walking up straight, and then we turned a corner. And we looked back at the plane and couldn't see it. So we came back to you, and you got up, came to us and said you lost the plane.
See, that's where we fly from there, that little corner of that field. That's my visual kind of marker.
Yeah.
And it's so obvious when you're looking at it through this GoPro, and it's all great quality. But the video feed through the goggles is very low res, it's 64480.
Yeah,
so it's
and
like
also it has all the voltage and all
it's
stuff
got everything all over it. It's really disorientating. So, you know, you don't have anything like this sort of clarity, and plus it's quite nervy anyway because you're flying this plane. So when you get out to this sort of view, it's one field looks much like any other. So I still know where I am at this point. And I'm probably by this point looking for places I know, and I can see the town there, but I don't want to go anywhere near that town because I don't want the plane, if it comes down flying over the town, I don't want it near any buildings at all. So I think by this point I'm looking around thinking all of these fields look pretty much the same. So I hit the autopilot, and it was obviously the GPS had gone wrong somewhere because it didn't know where home was, and it flew out to a random point and started circling there.
Yeah.
So I'm starting to worry about the battery and it going out of range, because now if it doesn't know where home is, because I was trying to follow the arrow as well, there's an arrow on the screen showing you where home is, but it wasn't making any sense. So I'm worrying now, because if it doesn't know where home is and I can't tell where the plane is, then I have to get it back because it can't return to home. So at this point I've hit autopilot and it's just circling around somewhere random, and the reception on the goggles is getting really, really bad. It's really hard to see, so I can just see random fields and the odd cow and sheep and things. So here I'm looking at the town and trying to just come back towards the town, and there that's the last attempt at the autopilot to try and get it to come back. So I'm looking around at the fields now, thinking it's a light coloured yellow field, trying to spot the field we're in. That's it there, but I can't see that from where I am. And by this point I haven't got any visuals at all. I'm coming down too low, and the autopilot's bringing it down low, and trees are going to start getting in between me and the plane, and it's also a fair distance away. So at this point the plane's flying itself, it's not connected to the controller, I can't see anything. By this point I'm probably walking over to you guys. The engine's cut out, or the motor's cut out, and it's just lost basically. And you see it bins there, and through the goggles I can just see what you can see there, but without the nose of the plane, just some grass. So I know the rough colour of the grass. But yeah, that was that. So I ended up walking. I mean, the little reconstruction there, I'm pretty sure I did more than that and went backwards and forwards more times, but it was about 10 or 12 kilometres I reckon.
I definitely walked at least 1 mile, and then you
walked about 6 kilometres because you had the phone. You and Mummy had my phone.
Yeah.
So that had the tracking on that, so you can tell the amount of steps, and there was 6 kilometres of steps.
Was there?
Yeah. So that's how far you guys had gone.
I had the phone.
Yeah. So but yeah, I didn't think we were getting it back. I thought it was hopeless because. I mean, I'll put the footage over here again.
If we couldn't find it in that field, we would never have guessed which field it was till you went and searched like almost all of the fields there. Exactly.
So I was basically eliminating one sort of yellowy cut field at a time. I was kind of ducking my head down with the goggles on to get the antenna low down, and then raising it up to see where the image started appearing, and then looking across the land and the hills trying to work out which direction it might be. But the worst thing is there's all them sheep and cows and horses, and you don't want to be roaming about in a field with horses. I knew it wasn't in any of their fields because their fields are green, but you can't get through. Like, it's all barbed wire, massive drops, and from the plane it just looks like they're like little hedgerows. But I honestly thought it was lost for the first hour and a half. It was, or hour or so, it was hopeless. And then as soon as I got a little bit of view from the goggles, I knew it was still on. But the goggles were running out, and they started cutting out and turning off, so I had to keep unplugging them, plugging them back in for a couple of seconds, and then unplugging them to save what battery I could. But yeah, there's a lot of lessons to be learned from this one. I shouldn't have thrown it on my own. Needed someone looking. I didn't even check. We reset the home twice, but we should have checked that everything was zeroed when I threw it, so it knew where to come back to. We should have done a test flight with you wearing the goggles, and then had it come back to us so we knew it could return. Lots of things we didn't do, and we're lucky to have got the plane back at all. Really lucky. We didn't actually get any further in getting above the clouds, but we have learnt a lot about losing a plane.
That's a little bit of a step down.
Would have been a massive step back if we'd have lost everything. But we've had the experience of losing something.
It means if we lost the plane, it's the channel, and pretty much
it would be everything gone. We'd be lucky.
We'd rinse all of our money trying to get the channel working again, because we'd have to buy the FPV again.
We wouldn't be able to do it, basically. But yeah, so that was that exciting adventure.
Yeah.
I mean, from an aerial map, it looks easy. It looks like there's only a few fields there, but we had no idea what direction it was. And when you're on the ground, you can't. You can only see the trees around you and a little bit of the ground. It was really hard, and I was really lucky to find it. So yeah, that was that. That's episode 5.
Yep.
We are going to be a lot more professional, and no sheep were hurt in the making of this episode, fortunately. but flying over
What
sheep.
do you mean, unfortunately? I don't like that.
Fortunately.
Unfortunately.
Did I say unfortunately?
Yeah.
God, no, that's not good. We're not out. We're trying to get above the clouds, not crash into sheep. But yeah, so let's wrap that up for this episode. And yeah, let's not ever do that again. Right, well, I'll catch you next time.
Yeah.
See you later.